Seeing as though it's the week of Christmas, I wanted to share a passage about Jesus. Hey, my name's John. I'm an ordained minister, and I just want to share God's word with you. Let's take a look at Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. The Apostle Paul writes, "Who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness." So I just want to focus on a few words here that'll help us really understand this passage. Paul uses the word being, and it's really two thoughts combined into one. First, it means the original or ancient, and second, it means from. So when we talk about Jesus, it means that he is the original. There has never been a time when Jesus did not exist. Colossians 1:16, "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him." Now, a lot of people might wrongly think that Jesus started his existence when he came to the earth, when he was born, but that's not the case. There has never been a time when Jesus did not exist. In fact, Genesis tells us that he was there in the creation. 1 John tells us the same thing. Throughout the scriptures, we're told that Jesus has always existed. And so the time before he came to the earth, we call him the pre-existent Christ. Then Paul continues in the passage, "in very nature God." And what this means is, he's not a symbol of God, he's not a component of God, he's not a representation of God. It means that his very nature, in that he is fully God. I hear this statement a lot. Jesus was a great moral teacher, he was a good role model, he was a good example to follow, he was a wonderful leader of a peaceful movement, but he wasn't God. But the scriptures go out of their way to testify that Jesus Christ was fully God. So then, why did Jesus suspend his God characteristics? Not his God status, not his God being, but the characteristics of God during his time when he dwelt on the earth. There are a lot of reasons why this happened, but for today, let's focus on the part of Jesus coming to the earth. Well, imagine what would happen if people with limited capacity, with finite minds, would see an infinite God in all his glory, all his splendor. In the scriptures, we see that even when angels as messengers of God encounter people, the first thing they do is fall on their face in fear and trembling because the magnificence of the angel is just too much. We see in Exodus 33:18 and on, "Then Moses said, 'Now show me your glory.' And the Lord said, 'I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion.' But he said, 'You cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live.'" Now, the reason God says this is not because he has some secret identity he's trying to keep to himself, but God understands that if Moses actually saw him in all his glory, all his power, all his might, that Moses' mind would literally be blown. Again, literally mind blown. Moses couldn't handle it. He would go insane or just die. So what God does instead is he places Moses on a mountain, covers him with his hand, passes by him, and right near the end, he reveals his backside. That's the most literal translation. God revealed his backside to Moses. And this is why Jesus did what he did too. The passage says that Jesus made himself nothing, but that's a little bit nondescript. What it really means is that he emptied, he evacuated, he vacated. So it's not that he became nothing, it's that Jesus emptied himself of all these things so that he could dwell among people without blowing their minds. He didn't just empty himself of his God characteristics temporarily, voluntarily, but he also took on the nature of people. Notice earlier, the passage said that Jesus was in very nature God. In other words, he wasn't just a symbol, he was actually God. And now, after the sacrifice Jesus made, he is in very nature human. And this is what we're really celebrating on Christmas, that God, Jesus, Emmanuel, that he temporarily suspended his God characteristics, sacrificing all of that, sacrificing his rightful place in heaven, and instead, out of love, driven by compassion for people who have fallen in their sin, wanting to redeem them, wanting to reconcile them, that he sacrificed all of that rightful place in heaven, and he came to the earth in order to rescue us. This is literally God's greatest gift And this is why, in part, every Christmas, we exchange gifts to one another. But so much more than just Christmas, and so much more than just exchanging gifts once a year, we as Christians, as believers, as followers of Christ, must follow His example. And we too must sacrifice our lives in compassion for other people who are in desperate need. And there are so many things going on this year, so many people struggling, that all the more we need to have compassion on one another and encourage each other. And still, among all those other things, the greatest thing we can offer to somebody else is the love of God through Jesus Christ. Well, hey everyone, I hope you were encouraged by this word. Just want to wish you a Merry Christmas and remind everyone that on Wednesdays, we have devotionals like this, and on Sundays, full sermons. Be blessed. Peace.